all of you who are here today with us. And it's an honor to welcome Dr. Aditi Narayani Paswan. She will be the speaker today. Aditi is teaching at Lakshmibai College in Delhi University. She holds a doctoral degree from the Center for the Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy of the Social Science School of Social Science Center at JNU. Uh, Her doctoral dissertation aims at assessing the rise and growth of Dalit entrepreneurship with a special reference to MSME sector, that especially in the decade of 2008 to 2018. Aditi is also a recipient of prestigious ICSSR fellowship, and she's widely published in some prestigious journal. She also have authored two books. One is Mithila Ki Vidushi, and another is Samajik Rashtriyata Dalit Samdarbh. Currently, Aditi is working on a couple of books. One of the book is about folk art of Mithila, and apparently Dalit studies, Dalit art and entrepreneurship are some of the research interest of Aditi. Currently, today, she will be talking about Mithila paintings and its intersectionalities. I think the topic is very, very, very interesting. And we are honored to have Dr. Paswan with us today. And it gives me immense pleasure and joy that I'm formally welcoming you here. And over to you, Aditi.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anamika ji, for such a elaborate introduction of mine. It just made me feel good about myself also for a minute. Thank you
You
so much.
deserve it. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. And thank you so much to Pradeep sir for giving me this opportunity and actually making this community called Gyanotsav, where people like us from Bihar can actually come and start a discourse, start a narrative around the cultural aspect of Bihar also, which I feel and all of us feel, I'm sure, is somewhere missing. The popular idea and the popular perception of Bihar is somewhere very different what we actually are, what we actually have. And so today, the topic that I'm going to talk about is folk art of Mithila, decasting the cultural space, and talking about its intersectionality. So I am a brief, just how I'll start. So uh, my grandparents are from Leheria Sarai near Darbhanga. And of course, I was exposed to Mithila painting at a very young age, and especially the Kobar art, which is there in each and every household of Mithila. So I was exposed, and it always intrigued me that, what is the art and what is the understanding of this art? We just see a piece of art and we say, oh, bright colors, oh, natural colors. There is something beyond that. Like art appreciation in itself, it requires. So when I talk about it, there are two theory that I have actually spoken about when we talk about the art, because every piece of art, it talks about a sentiment, it talks about an emotion, it talks about an expression. So throughout it was my MPhil dissertation that I did, and for 2 years I was in the field. I went to Rathi, Jitwarpur, parts of Leheria Sarai, and was talking to the artist. I was trying to understand that what exactly was the inspiration that they started doing this form of art. And it is something that and because all of us, I'm most of us are from that region, so we might be exposed to that sort of painting from our childhood. But I've prepared a short PPT, because since we're talking about art form, it's very important to see, because iconography plays a more important part whenever you're talking about art, rather than the semiotics or the understanding of the art. So I'll play the PPT, and then side by side I can keep on explaining the PPT. I hope it's visible to everyone. Uh, is
Yes,
it?
Aditi, we can see it very clearly.
Okay. So this is the first slide, which talks about folk art of Mithila, decasting the cultural space and understanding its intersectionalities. So the
Just
first thing that I want to talk about, that why do I call it a folk art? All of
so,
us have
so, so sorry
a
for interrupting, Aditi. I think it would be great if you could make it, full screen. Right
oh,
now, it is not the full screen.
oh,
Slideshow mode.
it's just okay, yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Just a second, I'll do it here.
Never mind. It's okay. Let it be.
No, no, I'll just do it. It has to be in my download folder. And now, is it?
No, but that's okay. That's okay. Let's just continue. It's more interesting to hear. We can see it very clearly. I thought that it will be like screen will be bigger.
If you give me a second, I'll just give it a try.
Yes,
Okay, just give me a second.
sure.
I think we'll just go ahead with this because, yeah.
Please, please go. Mhm. Please do that.
So yeah, so I was like, why do we call it a folk art? So whenever we're talking about art, a folk is something that it is a community practice. It is not that we are born with it. We something we see around, and it becomes a everyday part of our life. And anything which becomes an everyday part of our life, so something which reflects my community, something which reflects the everydayness of my life, is something that you call a folk art. We don't have to inherit a particular sort of, we don't have to go to a school, art school, or somewhere that we have to go and learn it, but something that you see around. For instance, in Darbhanga, when you go to the Mithila part, we have the culture of poker, we have the culture of pond. So fishes are very abundance in abundantly that is found there. So most of the things that you'll find in Mithila part when we talk about the motifs is about the fishes that we see. So something that is why it is called folk art, a art which we have learned by seeing, looking around, a art which defines us, an art which has become a part of our life. And this is one of the pictures that I clicked when I was doing the research. Now,
We
this is,
can't see your presentation, Aditi.
The
sorry.
presentation is not on, ma'am, I think. Right now, Aditi is speaking. I have just texted as well.
So it's a PPT, so I'm doing slide wise.
But we can't see it actually. If you're doing it, then we can't see it. I thought
Oh,
you're not doing it. Yeah.
We can just go back to the same presentation that we were sharing earlier.
yeah. Uh, Now, can we see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
So, where is Mithila? Now we come to the Indian map. Where is it located? It is a part, the northern part of the Bihar, which is located. Bihar is one of the states in India, which is located in the eastern part of India. Bordering its area is called Nepal. We have bordering states is Uttar Pradesh, and then we have Nepal. And Mithila is a region. Mithila, Madhubani might be a district. Mithila is a region, and that region encompasses parts of Nepal, parts of Bihar, and parts of UP also. And in this, those Mithila art, this is the, and how did this art? So let's start at what is art. Art is something which goes beyond the aesthetic. It is a form of expression that carries our social ethos, norms, value, emotions, beliefs, all the set of emotions that we have, the education, our state of mind, everything can be expressed through art. Art can be pictorial art also, or performative art also. When you're talking about pictorial art, it is through paintings. When we're talking about performative art, it can be through plays. So it can be, but art is something that it reflects our inner state of mind. And the main crux of my research was about Dalit art. Like, how did the Dalit art or the Dalit interpretation of the art evolve? And Dalit art is a very recent phenomena that we can see post 1980s, when it started with the rise of Dalit consciousness. That Dalits were getting aware of their cultural space, of their cultural history, of getting hold of their cultural narrative, which is very important. Initially, the Dalit art became more evident in the form of language, song, music, and this form of, and in the form of pictorial art, it was there in the 80s, but it got more and more evolved with the practice and people getting more aware of their communities. In the sociological understanding of art, when we are talking about art, what is art? So art is, of course, as we have spoken in depth about, that it is about human emotions, but it is also about our vulnerabilities, where we are weak. If we want to say something which we are not able to say through words, we're not able to express through words, art is also something that we can express. And it might help you to resonate with the deepest of the feelings that you have, where you feel weak. And weak, I'm not talking about the fact that you feel weak. It can be emotional weak, it can be weak, culturally weak. You might feel unsure and insecure about your cultural history. So art gives you that way, art gives you that form where you can actually express your vulnerabilities also. And art can help you in forming human sensibilities. How we define sensibility, sensibilities is not just what marks we have scored. Sensibilities go beyond what we are doing, what we're doing career wise. It is what, how well you're able to express your emotions. And that is what we are talking about today, that how these women from Mithila, this region called Mithila, came out and started expressing their emotions. And how the Dalits, especially specifically the caste I'm going to talk about is Dusad, how they came up and started talking about the various art forms that they were also, they started taking control of their narrative. It was not their form of art, or their expression of art was not reflective of the hegemonic understanding of art. It went beyond that. Now, any folk art, when we talk about, generally the women are considered to be the vanguards or the stalwarts of any folk art. And of course, Mithila painting also, the women also started about it. So when we're talking about folk art, we have Fulkari embroidery of Punjab, we have worldly painting of Gujarat, we have chikankari from Lucknow, we have Katha from Bengal, and we have our own Mithila folk art from our state. These are the different again, folk art which are there in different parts of the country. Now, when we're talking about who was, so Vibha Das, she's actually considered to be one of the women who started this form of art. So this form of art was practiced in every household, but it was during 1970s when in Darbhanga in Mithila region there was an earthquake, and Pupul Jekar from All India Handicraft Council came, and when she saw that, you know, when the house, she could see the remnants of this painting in those shabbled pieces of house which were broken, because since kobar was made and all the pieces of art were inside the four walls, it was not visible to the outside world, it was always a part of the inner world. And because women were involved in that, so women are considered to be the custodians of art, but that is also a part of the inner world. The commercialization part or coming to the outer world requires some sort of hand holding. It's not easy because it is also connected to the idea of empowerment. Art empowers a woman also, art empowers you emotionally, it feeds your soul. And also when commercialization happened, it gave you some sort of economic empowerment also. So she's Vibha Das, and I clicked a picture back in her home. She's very proud of her achievements, and then she will, when you go to her house, she's going to showcase you her illustrious paintings. And then she talks about she's very well equipped with the history. It's not that she's just performing the art and she's not aware, she's aware of the culture, evolution, themes, what is the current dynamics. And then she told me that in 1962, when Bhaskar Kulkarni, an early patron of this art, came to the village looking out for Mahasundri Devi, the best painter of her times, and Vibha's mother-in-law. She had two girls and a boy. And then that's how she was also. She came into this phase of commercialization when she came in contact with Bhaskar Kulkarni, and how Mithila painting also needed that space to have an institution which needs to be created. And she was very proud, and her children were also learning this form of art. So there's one very peculiar, one very unique thing about Mithila art, that it is passed from generation to generations. There's no fix. Of course, there's Kachni and Bharni, which I'm going to talk about, that how you paint it. But the themes are broadly what you have seen. If you talk about the historicity of it, it goes back that when Raja Janak saw Sita, he was so happy when he found Sita on the plowing ground. He was very happy. And then he ordered the whole of empire to be painted. The whole Raja said, Ki pure Mithila mein, it should be painted and it should be celebrated that, you know, Dharti Putri Sita, we have found her. And then the whole town was painted with these bright colors, bright hues. And with what sort of theme? It was what they saw, like elephant, tortoise, women performing art, and everything that we see. And that's the historicity of the Mithila art if we talk about. This is one of the other pictures that I clicked. Dr. Rani Jha, she's one of the most famous, I would say, right now, one of the artists. She even teaches there. Now she has a doctoral thesis also, which she has written. I met her this year, and she has been awarded Padma Shri also. And it's her unique idea when she started this, that she actually talks about it that, art is very intertwined with the idea of empowerment, because the confidence which oozes out when you talk to her, I could feel the difference when I spoke to her in 2015 and then when I spoke to her in 2024. It feels that she has gone through that different phases of confidence building of talking about this. And her paintings are very vocal about the ideas of woman empowerment. So this is one of the painting that was actually a world art community where it was deeply honored, where she's talking about what a woman has to do in her everyday life. So you can see there's this woman who is balancing her way of life. You can see there's a man, of course, he's giving you the financial support, he's being the breadwinner, but it's a woman who is performing all the duties, whether it's cooking, whether it's drying of the clothes, whether it's cleaning, and it's two children. So that balance she's talking about, that women are able to strike the balance, and the labor that woman puts inside the house also needs to be respected and needs to be seen with a great dignity. So, and this was a very brave piece of work that she did, and it was renowned artist, and she has showcased it in more than 10 or 15 countries. And then if you actually, then there's another, the everydayness of pain by Rani Jha. In this also she talks about the unsaid pain and suffering of the women of everyday life. You can see a woman, she's gazing at the moon. This painting is also known as gazing at the moon. She's looking at the moon and she's talking about pain. And she's talking about that, maybe as women, we know that, there are a lot of generational trauma. There are a lot of things that we have deep in our heart. We're not very vocal about our emotions. Generally, all the emotions, there's a very colloquial saying, चलता है औरत हो जाता है. तो these things somewhere affects you. And if you see the deep eyes in this painting and looking at the moon, she's trying to talk to the moon and establish that connection, that somewhere, I am also feel my pain and I'm talking to you about the pain. And then she talks about the expanse of moonlight, that the sky is unlimited and then we can talk to it. So it's a very deep painting. And how we can see that she has traveled. She's talking about very deep emotions of you, of being a woman. Then a feminist perspective, as we know that in Bihar, of course, there's some sort of migration has, I don't know whether to say that it has plagued our state, or because we don't have industries, men from our state are coming out and working. And it was a very a disheartening scene to see post COVID, when the worst sufferer was migrant laborers from our state. So this is because we don't have industries, we don't have inner work. So people from our state, they generally migrate. And this is one of the scene that she has painted, that woman is saying bye to her husband, who has a big suitcase, and then he's carrying this potli, if you can see, a food. And he's going to another land, and he's saying that, I'm going to come back with, I'm going with to another land for better opportunity, so that I can send you money for a better life. And then you can see that the intricacies of the painting, she has all the duties which are defined there, that I cannot come with you, but I have to look after the house, but I'm saying bye to you. So migration, which is a burning issue, and especially of Bihar, Orissa, these states. So she talks about this also. And of course, the burden of the family is always on the women's shoulder. Men go out and they send money, but the shoulder of taking care of the in-laws, the shoulder, the pain of, not exactly pain, the responsibility of taking care of the children is generally on the women. So this is what she's talking about. Dulari Devi, I would say that one of the women that I met in 2000, again in 2015 and 2020, 24, when I met her in Mithila Institute this time, when she has received her Padma Shri, and the confidence and the mode of art and the way she was talking, the way she was teaching, it actually, you truly feel that art, what we understand, we go to Delhi Haat, buy a piece of art, get it framed and put it in our wall. It is truly beyond that. Marginalized women, women from lower caste, women from lower section, they're getting skilled. Of course, there's some sort of lacuna that we need to do, some sort of diversification of skills is required, but you can feel the confidence. I have a video which I might play after that. So her story is, she was used to wash utensils in the house of Mahasundri Devi and Karpuri Devi, and she used to see those women painting once, and she was a child widow. Her husband actually abandoned her, and then she went and she saw, and she asked her that, can I also learn this painting? And Mahasundri Devi and Karpuri Devi, because the idea of cohesiveness is there, the idea of social cohesion. अगर मैं कुछ जानती हूँ मैं किसी को सिखाऊंगी. It was not the idea कि मैं मिथिला आर्ट जानती हूँ, I'm an artist, that sort of arrogant. But these two great ladies, they agreed and they taught her how to hold a brush, what themes to do, how we can do it. And then today we know that she has done Padma Shri, and her Ras Leela of Krishna is one of the most sought after painting which has been done by her. And of course we all should see that. You can see, actually trace her how her inner self has actually come out, and it is being reflected in the paintings that she does. And this is a most recent picture when she was teaching in this college that I went. This is the video which I might play where she's talking about that what does art mean for her. Then this is pioneers of different styles of Mithila art. Then we're talking about the more aspects of it, the more technical aspect of it. So broadly, during my research, I figured out that different caste group also have a very different idea of this art. So first is Mahapatra Brahmins, who actually have a style of Jitwari Bharni Shaili. So Mithila art is practiced in two styles. It's one is called Kachni, the other one is called Bhardi. Kachni is the border lines that you can see. If you see the PPT, the borderline for the PPT, the lines that you see, the vertical and the horizontal lines, those are called Kachni. And the colors which are inside that, those are called Bharni. So these are the broadly two ways how you can do this art. Second is pioneer is Ganga Devi, Mahasundri Devi, Yashoda Devi, Karpuri Devi. They are from Karn caste, Rathi style. Third is Jamuna Devi, Lalita Devi, Shanti Devi, Dusad and Harijan style, which is Godana, Geru, and Gobar. And I'm going to talk about now these three forms of style, these three different forms, how every caste has their own understanding of the paintings. That is one. Now we have seen there's one great artist from Mithila, from Patna called Malvika Raj. How she's using her art, and she has actually improvised. She has come up with new themes, and it is talking about mythology. It is also talking about how religion can come into the picture. This painting talks about the hegemonic, the very hegemonic orthodox hegemonic practices, and the evolution of Buddha, and evolution of Buddha, how Buddhism came in, and spoke about that one should stand any sort of orthodoxy. And then this is the painting that she made. Malvika Raj, this is another. She has painted Savitri Bai Phule, and then through her years, you can see, because Savitri Bai Phule, the pain that she went through. She's teaching the young girls, and then she herself was reading. She used to carry, and all of us know when Savitri Bai started this, people used to throw kichar on her when she was going to teach to the school. She would always carry an extra sari with her. So she drew that. Paintings with more social messages that we need to stand up. And Malvika is of course my contemporary, and she's doing such great art. Then Dalits, the invisible patrons of art. All of us know that Dalit, if you talk about etymologically, who are Dalits? Anything etymologically meaning split, cracked, or broken. But it also signifies the concept of discouraged, scattered, or crushed. The contemporary understanding of the term Dalit is informed by the life and work of Jyotirao Phule, while it is B.R. Ambedkar was the first to identify this term. Phule was delineating. So this is I'm talking about that Dalits in basically the most marginalized section of the community, the so-called untouchables, the lowest in the Ati Shudra range, the Varna system. So they also used to practice this art. It's always said that some sort of superiority or some sort of hegemonic used to come and control the narrative, but it is not so. It's not well written about. Every Dalit community, if we travel across our country, we'll find everybody has their own form of art and how they talk about their art. It can be either, it can be performative, it can be through written literature, it can be through plays, act, but everybody has it. The evolution of Dalit Mithila painting is 1917s, when there's this German anthropologist, she comes, Erika Moser, and guidance to women from the Dusad community to take hold of the Mithila art form, which subsequently also paved the way for them to seek acknowledgement of their existence and experiences of artists in a less marginalized community. Now, when we are talking about the caste dynamics of this country, nothing can be spoken in this country in absolute sense. We cannot say that this is the art. There's always a very strong interplay of caste in every social, cultural, political matrix if we are talking about our country. So caste is a very important factor, and throughout this research, It's one of the findings that I found. Dalits were very vocal about their caste identity, were very vocal about how they would paint. What is their identity? But when we talk to other castes, they would generally not acknowledge. They would say that, it's all good. There's no different art form. There's no. So the fact that you're shying away, there's nothing. That's why I've called this piece of my work as decasting. So we need to decast. And when we're talking about decasting our cultural space, first step is that we need to accept and acknowledge that, caste system does exist. And it is not generally why we don't need to understand caste system something like a stratifying force or a divisive force. It can be something which is giving me an identity. It is something which defines my way of life. So Dusals also had this, and through the help of Erica Moser, they got that platform to talk about this. So broadly, when we talk about Dalit art, it is into three art: Godna, Gobar, and Geru. Now, what is Godna? Godna is this popular art form of tattoo art, which we call it. And tattoo art, of course, there's some colonial interpretation and tantric interpretation of it. But when we talk about simply, it was done on the hands of women to write about their husband's name if they were not, because if they were not literate. So if they get lost, someone can actually drop them. Secondly, they also drew, there was some, we are a country of nature worshippers. We worship nature for everything. Abhi Savan chal raha hai, so we are worshipping. So there's no art form. So they used to also worship. They used to paint things like sun, anything, any cultural identity, any that piece of work or anything which used to symbolize, which that they can connect with or symbolize their idea of identity. That is what they. And slowly from their body, of course it was a tattooing art, it came onto the paper. And in all the Dalit art, you will see generally that there's no bright colors. So when historically we talk about art, it was made from natural colors: red color from hibiscus flower, yellow color from turmeric, or ariparna from the chawal, usko chawal bana ke. Everything has natural resources. So art also becomes a sort of access to resources. Dalits, being the most marginalized and economically disadvantaged, never had access to lot of resources. So their paintings would generally, if you see, they would scrape out things from the trunk of the tree, which will give you a brown color. And from basically jo jung lag jata hai or something iron ore, they'll scrape out things from that. They would mix oil in it, and with the help of a twig or something, they would paint it. So even the themes that they would paint it would be different. It won't be very complicated, very intricate designs. It would be, you'll see that you can see elephants here, you can see a more bold designs. Again, the understanding and the access to God is also one thing. The access to Ram Sita, the access to Ram Janak, the access to religious pictures, the access to when we talk about accessibility, it took our country a while to get access to gods also. So in the absence, you develop your own form. You make your own cult leaders. You start making your own. You start glorifying. You start puja karna, the things that you see around, and that is what Mithila painting up from a Dalit perspective was about. Second is Gobar. Jamuna Devi is considered to be the pioneer of this art, and you can see in this art that she has painted. It goes beyond Kachni and Bharni. You will see that there is a picture. There's a maid, and then rather than using colors, she would use gobar, cow dung. First step would be she'll take cow dung and she's going to smear the paper with the cow dung, which is going to give you a very handmade paper and selling kind of sort of structure. If you do it right now, it is going to sell in the market like crazy, because cow dung has that also acts as a disinfectant. So she used to, with the help of gobar, she used to paint these designs, and this was very different. But of course, again, because I've always emphasized on the idea of cohesion, so even the people from other castes saw this, and still they also tried to emulate this style of painting into the popular style of painting. Third is Geru art. Geru art is related to Gobar, but in this also you will find more bigger graphics, more bigger graphics, or more bigger deities, creatures which are made. Again, it has a very brown base because of the cow dung, but the designs are getting bigger and bigger. And why is it? Because the headspace also, when art develops it in your headspace also required exposure to the ideas. When we're talking about exposure, we're talking about socialization, which frames any mental faculty of a human. So if you're talking about, so when Dalits, their socialization was very different from a Brahman, from a caste community. So their socialization, their access to the uh, different kinds of art was very different, and this is what they saw, and this is what how they painted. This is broadly what. Yeah. Now, when we're talking about Raja Salhesa, so Dalits, the Dusads of Mithila region, they started this iconography, and you can see there's this one picture. So this site is considered to be a Raja Salhes pilgrimage, which is located in Jitwarpur. Now, who is Raja Salhes? So Raja Salhes is a prime deity figure that is highly revered and thus quite prominently used in Dalit painting. All of us know the story of Chuhar Mal, and all of us know. So there are 42 or 56 versions of the story of Chuhar Mal, which has been written into by different anthropologists. So Raja Salhesa was also one of this man who actually, and there's a very famous story which I'll read if we have time right now. So the most beloved version goes on. Salhesa Dusad of Mahasota Gad in Nepal served as the ruler of Pakyagar as a chief of 700 watchmen. Since Dusads are considered, and every caste in India has a skill to it, right? So Dusads, we were the guards. We were the watchmen. We used to protect the space. We used to protect villages. Donna Malin of Murang loved him. One day, Mukama's Chuharmal stole the ornaments of the queen by entering the palace. The chief watchman, Salhesa, was put into prison. Donna was able to release Salhesa on a promise to bring back the thief within 8 days. Salhesa and Donna Malin impersonate themselves as Nut and Nutin. And you see Nut and Nutin, जो हम लोग पूजा करते हैं, there's sculptures, there are actually sculptures made of Nut and Nutin, and went to Mukama. With the help of force and witchcraft, they were able to entrap Chuharmal and presented him before the king. Happy with them, the king rewarded them by giving them the right to become the guard of his palace throughout his life. Sanisa and Donna Malin lived happily ever after. This is one of the which is written by Neil Rekha. She is again a great anthropologist and written extensively about Mithila art. So this is one of the very famous stories that we have heard. And if you read about Chuharmal also, there's a very thick description about Chuharmal, that he used to sit on a tiger, and us tiger ko he used to control with a snake. There's a very masculinized idea and version how Chuharmal would look like. And why do we have this impersonation, or why do we always see them masculinization? Because we want to be something that we cannot have. And Dalits also, because even for Dalit men, they were always marginalized, and the idea of masculinity of Dalit men is also very different from the other men also from different castes. So when they are also starting the process of masculinization, they want to present themselves as highly, which in our modern term can also be the idea of toxic masculinity that we have. This is the picture that I clicked of the mandir, which is there. You can see Raja Salhesa. Now, why are we talking about why caste? I'm giving so much importance to caste life narrative in this whole idea, because whenever I present this paper, mostly people ask me that, art, you don't need to talk about different caste interpretation of this art. Why? We all artists practice by same, हम सब बराबर हैं. That is the whole idea, that हम सब बराबर नहीं है. This idea of हम सब बराबर हैं, I'm not talking about barabari in sort of economic terms. I'm talking about barabari or equality in sort of in terms of dignity. So, do I have a dignified right to my cultural past? Do I have a dignified control of my cultural narrative? Do I have a dignified living? So, if you're talking about do we, and most important, do I have a dignified idea of creative, that right to have creative expressions? And this is and through these art form, the Dalits of this particular area, they got their dignity, they got their claim, and they started. Just a second. All of us have these a dominant epistemology that has been given by the biggest intellectuals, the subaltern idea. I'm not going to get into those big jargons, but the idea that we are having cultural past of some sort of humiliation, people are getting control over it, and people are sharing it through art. All of us should come together and start this discourse, and which is true for the state of Bihar also. The popular idea, the popular perception might be different, but if we come together and we start the discourse about also the cultural aspects of Bihar, because culturally, Bihar is the most vibrant state. The part which misses in the state of Bihar is not the proper marketing. And when we are talking about marketing, again, it's not marketing in the terms of that what we are selling. It is also in the term of intellectual capital. It's also in the term of cultural capital. Few months ago, I had the opportunity of going around in different parts of Bihar for a project. There's Sujani art, there's different forms of art. There we have Katha, own version of Katha embroidery. There's so many art forms that needs to be spoken about. And this, through this study that I have done, and hopefully when the book comes out this year, by December, we are going to establish, I feel we're going to establish that, the cultural identity of Bihar, and of course the Dalit understanding of cultural aspect, which is mostly related to the idea of literature and or the forms of performative art. Through the art is something which is going to come for the very into the mainstream academy. It is going to come. So this is all my work all about, and I hope I could make some sense. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And this is the same art form. There's this Vidyasagar Mandir in the Chauraha. If you go to that mandir, there is a very nice a pandit who is going to give you a tour of the mandir and going to tell you, and all the different aspects of Ramayan they have painted. And this is where, when Sita was found, this is the first picture. There's a complete, when the Raja Janak said ki pura Sita, pura tum town sajao. Then when Sita got married, when she went, or when she went to the forest, every aspect of Ramayana has been beautifully depicted in this mandir. So this was the whole idea about folk art of